So Mr. Andoh has a strong passion for public transportation and has been working in the public transit industry since age 13. So there's a story there. Working as an intern at the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority in San Jose, California. He first became a transit manager at the Riverbank Oakdale Transit Authority, working for a board of directors and implementing an intercity transit service, and has run many systems since. He began leading the Comet in Columbia, South Carolina from 2018 to 2021. And as of now, he's leading the County of Hawai Mass Transit Agency in Hilo, Hawaii, here on the island of Hawaii. Mr. Andoh has overseen preparation of short and long-range transit plans and strategic plans for transit systems he has managed. He also has a robust understanding of the Federal Transit Administration grants, funding programs, and compliance, including obtaining direct recipient status from the FTA in preparation of compliance docs. He has started many small urban and rural transit systems, as well as implemented transformational processes to make them efficient and progressive. Mr. Andoh is a true mobility innovator, which is demonstrated as the fact he's my first guest who is actually mobile, and also the guest speaker. Unless that's a really clever Zoom background and you're just faking.
No. I'm definitely moving.
You can do anything with Zoom today.
Right.
So with that as background, welcome to our little hui, and I'll turn it over to you, John.
Thank you. So I'm John Andoh. I've been with the County of Hawai Mass Transit Agency since June of 2021. And we've done a lot of innovative things to reinvent Hele-on. For those that aren't aware, Hele-on is the Mass Transit Agency's brand of how we promote our transit services. We provide fixed route bus service island-wide. We have buses that run from as early as 3:15 in the morning to now as late as 2:30 the following morning. We also have complimentary paratransit that operates in Hilo, Kailua Kona, up the Pahoa area, and in between. And paratransits for seniors and persons with disabilities that cannot ride regular fixed route transit due to having a disability or can't access a regular fixed route transit bus stop. We also fund a shared ride program in partnership with 3 taxi cabs in the Hilo area. And we also fund Hi Bike, which allows persons to rent bikes in either downtown Hilo or downtown Kailua Kona for connecting the first and last mile connections from either the public transit system or if you just wanted to ride a bike for recreational reasons. In 2018, the county adopted a transit and multimodal transportation master plan that laid the framework for basically rebuilding the Mass Transit Agency. That talked about new routes, later service, a new fleet replacement plan to buy brand new buses, implementing mobility management opportunities such as van pools, bike sharing, a revised shared ride program, partnerships with Lyft and Uber, incorporating more technology, and constructing transit hubs across the island, as well as a new base yard in Kailua Kona. So we started to implement the effects of that master plan. And the first phase of that, on September 5th, we launched a new network of bus routes island-wide. We've expanded service to where we have buses running every hour within Hilo, every hour to Pahoa and within the Puna district, every hour in the Kailua Kona area, every hour in Waimea. And then we've also added additional cross-county connections, which includes a new route that's going between Hilo and Kailua Kona via Daniel K. Nui Highway, Saddle Road, 7 days a week. We have another express route that is going between Honaka'a, Waimea, and Kailua Kona, Monday through Friday, doing 4 trips as well. We've enhanced our service, which is another express route between Hilo and Keau and Volcano and the national park there. And we also added 7-day-a-week service to that route. So basically, the transit network now runs, in essence, 7 days a week on consistent routes with consistent schedules, and people can make connections to various routes, either at the Moehu bus terminal in downtown Hilo, Kona Commons, next to Target in Kailua Kona, Parker Ranch Shopping Center in Waimea, Kona International Airport, and Punakai Shopping Center in Pahoa. And as part of this implementation of the master plan, we're starting to see a slight increase in the transit system, just because now people are able to make more trips with more opportunity of frequency, with more days of week. Previously, we ran 3 routes on Sundays, had very limited evening service, and routes did not run on a consistent, memorable headway. I'll be happy to, before I continue on, I'll be happy to answer any questions on the new network of routes if there are any.
John, I had a question for you, not necessarily on the routes network, but earlier you mentioned the mass transit master plan.
Yes.
Could you kind of remind us of what the highlight goals and objectives of the plan are?
So the ultimate objective of the master plan was to provide a reliable transit service island-wide that can help drive economic development, move residents, move people to employment opportunities, social service opportunities, and educational opportunities, and to increase mobility, which includes alternative ways of moving people beyond traditional bus service. And that master plan also was the catalyst towards allowing an additional general excise tax to fund the implementation of these improvements through 2030, as well as leveraging federal dollars to replace some of our capital assets, as well as to construct new facilities to support this new transit system.
So John, has it taken additional resources to implement what you call phase 1, the new routing system?
No, well, basically what we've done is we're utilizing the same resources we had. It's we just redeployed it in a different manner to get the phase 1 going, which was helpful because there was some concern that we needed new buses, new facilities in place before we were able to launch this, but we were able to do it without having to get to that stage, because there's been concern in the community on why it's been taking so long to fully implement the actions of this master plan.
Right.
So now we're going into the next phase where we're looking at how can we do some additional mobility options to connect people to the transit system. We strengthened our relationship with HiBike. We're working on an expansion of additional bike share stations, both in Hilo and Kailua Kona. We are getting ready to give an opportunity for Hele-on riders to get free access to HiBike, so we can better link that connection between HiBike and Hele-on. And how that would work is basically a Hele-on rider would get a code from the bus driver. They would input that code into the app or the kiosk, and then they would be able to get unlimited 60-minute rides on the HiBike system. We are in discussions with Enterprise to launch a van pool program. And this van pool program would, in essence, allow people who work in East Hawaii or live in East Hawaii that needs to commute to West Hawaii, or lives in West Hawaii that needs to commute to East Hawaii. And we would subsidize those vans at $500 per van per month. And then the group would cover the difference. And this way, the group can determine the schedule of when they actually want to leave a particular origination point and when they need to arrive at a destination point. And we can report the ridership, miles, and revenue from this van pool program in our statistics to the Federal Transit Administration, which can help generate additional federal funds to support the transit system as a whole. We're also going to be revisiting the shared ride program and seeing ways on how we can incorporate Lyft and Uber into that so that we can have more of a cohesive shared ride program island-wide and provide more door-to-door type services in dense areas like Hawaiian Paradise Park, Hawaiian beaches, the Ocean View area, where it's miles to walk from the furthest part of those subdivisions to the highway to catch our buses, for instance. And as well as we also want to restructure the program to make sure that it's financially sustainable as well by incorporating Lyft and Uber, as well as the limited taxis that are participating in that. From a capital standpoint, we're also wanting to increase the level of amenities for the transit system. We have grants to purchase 37 buses, so we're preparing requests for proposals as we speak to go out to bid to basically buy a brand new fleet to replace the donated buses that we've received over the course of the last 7 years from either Maui or City and County of Honolulu, as well as retiring the older buses that the county has purchased in the early 2000s. So hopefully by the end of fiscal year 2023, we should have a brand new Hele-on bus fleet that should last us for at least 12 years. And we'll have a comprehensive fleet replacement plan. So going forward, we can strategically plan from a financial basis on how to replace this fleet as those buses age, so we don't get in a situation like we had a couple of years ago where basically we didn't have buses and we had to charter buses in order to make service. We're also adding additional bus shelters island-wide, and we are working with the Highways Division of the Public Works Department on where we can place additional shelters, particularly along the highway for many of our bus routes, as well as in the Hilo urbanized area, Pahoa urbanized area, Waimea urbanized area, and the Kailua-Kona urbanized area. So while you see some we have a total of 73 shelters island-wide. It's our goal to get to about 150 within the next couple of years, as spelled out in our master plan. We have grants to build a new base yard in Kailua-Kona so that we can start being able to maintain and dispatch buses from Kailua-Kona. We're getting ready to start a process where we're going to be selecting sites, doing an environmental assessment, and then ultimately design and construction of a base yard. And as part of that, we're also engaging a consultant to help us in the management of the construction of these transit hubs. We intend to build transit hubs in Pahoa, Keau, Kailua-Kona, and Waimea, and do additional enhancements to the Moehu bus terminal in Hilo, so that as these routes hub at these transit centers, people have comforting amenities to wait to board on these buses. And then I also want to talk about the technology piece. We are on the verge of having our routes in Google. The GTFS is almost done, and we've been engaging with Google on testing that GTFS. So soon you'll see a ton of bus icons on Google Maps so that you can basically plan your trip on the Hele-on system, compare it to drive times or bike times or walking times. We are developing an app, and we're hopefully going to have that app rolled out by the end of the year, which will basically integrate with the Google Trip Planner, as well as you'll be able to track and see where our buses are in real time. We have 4 buses that have the tracking device now, and we intend to go out to bid later on this year so that we can retrofit the balance of the fleet. We're also integrating the bike share piece into the app so that you can actually see how many bicycles are available at a particular dock and actually know where the docks are. So show that true multimodal connection. We are also doing a mobile app where you can buy your tickets utilizing credit card or cash through a wallet in partnership with Token Transit. That's hopefully going to launch in November, and that will allow people to not necessarily have to come to the mass transit agency or the downtown bus terminal to purchase monthly passes, 10-ride tickets, or single cash fares. And I'll take a little pause here and answer any questions in relation to some of the things I've shared.
John, this is Alan Okinaka.
Yes.
Is there a community assessment as to what the need is and what your capacity is right now?
So that assessment was done in 2017 to formulate the framework of the master plan that was adopted in 2018. We are engaging the consultant team that prepared that master plan, SSFM, to do some updates to that. And that's where we're going to look at and understand, is this master plan from 2018 still relevant? And making sure that we're meeting those community needs in the various communities and districts across the island.
So based upon that right now, what is your capacity? How much of that need are you satisfying?
So the greatest need that we've heard has been more transit service in the Puna district. So by adding those extra routes and the additional frequency in the Puna district, we've been able to see a slight uptick of passenger trips out of that district. So we believe that need is getting satisfied, for instance. And there's been some environmental justice concerns in the past about transportation. And so that additional routes has allowed us to satisfy those environmental justice issues from the past.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. So go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so John, in full disclosure, I've rode the Hele-on from 2012 through the start of COVID. So I have a particular insight into the program with my job in Waimea and living in Hilo. My immediate reaction to your summary is that it bears little resemblance to the Hele-on that I left behind, in all good ways. So this is a huge transformation of a bus program that left for periods of time the use of school buses basically to backfill the lack of county buses or in fact commercial buses. It was just a disaster. Roughly how much overall is the budget for this transformation of the Hele-on program?
So previously we were spending about $8 million on the actual operational piece that's driven by Roberts Hawaii. The additional services is going to increase that budget to about $9.5 million, at least for the phase one. And then collectively with Mass Transit Agency Administration, the taxi program, the mobility programs, our capital needs for buses, bus shelters, and technology, we have an overall budget of about $37 million, which is primarily funded through fares, Federal Transit Administration grants, and the general excise tax and general obligation bonds.
Okay, so that covers your purchase of a large number of buses. I think you said like 3 dozen.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Many of those new bus purchases are going to be about 80% funded by the federal government, and then the GET would cover the 20% local match.
Okay.
Are these new buses going to be hybrid or pure electric, or what's your plan?
So we just ordered 4 of them that are going to be diesel. The balance of them will be either a battery electric or hydrogen. The mayor and the county council has committed to transitioning the Hele-on fleet to a zero emissions. going to use the opportunity with these new grants to start that transition now. And we're also in the planning stages of planning for the infrastructure, including charging stations that are at the base yards and at some hubs, so the buses can be charged, can be recharged throughout the day. We don't have to necessarily switch out buses. We are going to be getting a hydrogen bus that's going to be delivered on that hydrogen bus on routes in the Kailua-Kona area. And then we'll get an additional 2 more hydrogen buses in mid-2022.
And who provides the hydrogen?
The hydrogen is being provided through the National Energy Lab.
Okay.
And they built an actual station to where it can actually produce and generate the hydrogen.
Okay. And the range of the electric buses is roughly what?
So we are, in our specifications, we are asking for the manufacturers to give us a range between 250 and 300 miles.
Okay.
Which is, as the technology has evolved, the manufacturers are able to meet that. If you haven't seen, we do have one electric bus running in Hilo that's owned by Roberts. And that's been assigned to the downtown Hilo routes.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So it's kind of given us the practice now on zero emissions technology. And the hydrogen will just give us another way to prepare us for transitioning to a larger hydrogen fleet at a later date.
Okay. And what's been the reaction of the riders to the phase 1 sort of major rerouting that took place?
Initially, some confusion, which is expected when you do a significant change, especially we're changing routes that have been the same for decades.
Exactly.
But we're starting to get a lot of positive feedback as people have learned to figure out the system and learn that these buses are meeting up at these hubs, and they're seeing how easy it is to get around the island. And then especially, we've gotten a lot of praises of the additional Sunday service and the faster connections between Hilo and Kailua-Kona, as well as additional airport service. And should also add, if you're not aware, we now run the Kona trolley service on Alihi Drive. So we have basically transitioned our transit service on Alihi Drive to that trolley route. And then we have other buses that have been redeployed in the Kailua-Kona area to provide additional services that we weren't providing previously with the services that we had out there.
Okay. Other questions?
I do want to touch basically on the marketing piece. We have designed a new Hele-on logo, and that new Hele-on logo is going to be deployed on our current bus fleet, as well as on the new bus fleet. We also have a new design that will also be employing on the current bus fleet. As you know, we have blue buses, green buses, gold buses, buses with flowers on them. So by having this one consistent brand will help make the transit system noticeable and stronger as we strive to increase our ridership. We also are in social media. We have a Facebook page, Instagram page, Twitter page, YouTube page. We're in the process of redesigning the website to make it more user-friendly and be able to have more information, as well as a trip planner for people to plan their trip once the Google piece is live. So you'll start on the next couple of months starting to see us deploy that new logo and see these wrap buses go into play.
So who's the lucky recipient of the old buses?
Oh boy. We have 28 buses that were cannibalized from the past that I'm in the process of salvaging or basically destroying as we speak. We are going to at least move them to the landfill for the interim so that we can get them out of Schultz siding and out of the Mass Transit Agency. But quite frankly, if nobody wants them in auction, it's our intent to just scrap them.
Okay.
And we're going to have, in addition to those 28 that I'm working on now, as we get our new buses coming in, ultimately we're going to have another 49 buses that will be disposed of somehow.
I heard they make excellent tiny homes.
They do actually.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the Bay Area Rapid Transit in Oakland, they actually started to convert BART trains into housing to help
the
with
only
the
thing it
homeless
needs is
population.
all it needs is plumbing. Electrical systems already there, and the floors there, roofs there, the windows are there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very happy to hear about the mass transit system, because we had a guest on this meeting a while back from the council, and when I said something, she said, we don't have a mass transit system here in Hawaii, on Hawaii Island. And so I stopped my questioning, but you've shown me that we do have one, so that's very heartening. Thank you very much.
Of course. And it's our goal to just continue to make it better so that it's a true valuable service for island residents and visitors.
So John, how long have you been on the job?
Since June 24.
Okay. What is your impression about why it's taken this long to make this kind of transformation of the Hele-on? Because it's been a long standing problem.
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I don't know if I can honestly answer that. I can tell you that I was here 7 years ago in a different position, and to be candid, I left out of frustration because I wanted to help make changes to the system, but I wasn't being heard on how to make those changes. So when the mayor asked me to come back and basically empowered me to make changes to make this system the best that it can be, that's what I've been trying to do for the last couple of months. So
basically it became a priority in the mayor's office, is what you're saying?
that's correct. In this current mayor's office, yes.
Right. Okay. Well, I've witnessed, personally for years how important it is for people to get to their jobs, and I don't know what the economic impact is, but just the sheer number of riders going back and forth that fundamentally require this to be able to get to their jobs is really large. And it gave me a strong sense of importance to the county to provide this. It's heavily subsidized, obviously, but it also means we're generating a lot of tax revenue by having the employment bumped up with this service provided to people on the island. So do you anticipate the same kind of really low costs going forward with the Hele-on as a result of all these changes?
That's what I would envision. I would hope that as we add these services and people feel comfortable and return back to Hele-on, that we can reduce our subsidy per passenger, and we can also help connect people to jobs, for instance.
Right.
I know that has been a challenge, especially in the West Hawaii side with COVID and the resorts now starting to ramp back up, but people not necessarily wanting to go back to work, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Other questions for John?
I have to say though that besides jobs, John, I was on a board for a medical center, and transportation is one of the social determinants, and a lot of people will depend on the bus system to get to their doctor's appointment, pick up medication, things like this. So that's another aspect of good transportation that's going to be vital for our community.
And employment, I mean, getting
You're breaking up.
connect with some care.
We'll let them catch up before we start over.
Is this better?
John, we've
little
lost-
Can you
bit.
hear me okay?
We've lost you for the last minute.
Yeah, we didn't hear any of what you said after Alan asked his question.
Can you hear me okay?
Still no go. So I'm trying to reconnect.
I think he's gone.
Yeah, see if he reconnects. So he's trying
Oh,
to
there he is, connecting back.
All right. Is this better?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yeah,
All right. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Now,
we
I'll
lost
just-
you for the last 2 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, I was just saying that I agree with your comments and that transit is a great way to connect people to not only medical care, but recreation, social service, educational opportunities, shopping. And it's our goal to make sure that we're connecting people to those important destinations, because that's how people can basically live their lives, especially for students, seniors, persons with disabilities, low income, and commuters.
Right. Okay, are there any other questions for John? Or John, did you have any other info you wanted to relay to the group?
No, that's basically it. I just recently joined the chamber, and
I noticed
we,
that.
we definitely want to be more engaged in the community, and I'll be trying to participate in more community functions so that transit is becoming a part of people's thought processes and our
Right.
quest to rebuild ridership and rebuild confidence in public transportation on this island.
Yeah, well, that'd be great. And I'd encourage you to reach out to like Waimea Community Association or HIEDB as well to see if you can get them speaking slots and get the word out about the new and improved mass transit system. Because like I said, what you described bears very little relation to what I witnessed for years. So this is a extremely welcome upgrade to a really critical part of our county infrastructure.
Well, thank you. I definitely will reach out.
Okay, is there anything as a group you all like to bring up? Just for still have a little time if you like to put discussion topics on the table. Nothing? Come on, Lincoln. Don't make me resort to you. Suggestions for future speaker? Anybody have somebody in mind that they'd like me to invite?
One of the things I thought about was that HIEDB has done a lot of webinars on the host culture's perspective on economy and education and things like this. So it might be a good time to ask. Her name just slips me right now. I'm sorry, but to have her give us a summary of.
Oh, you mean Jackie?
You know what's that?
Jackie Hoover.
Yeah, Hoover. Have her summarize and give us an idea of what she has found out today. I think there were 3 webinars I attended, and they're quite well done and interesting. A lot of good perspectives were brought up and discussed, and I think would be of interest to our committee.
Yeah, Jackie's everywhere. I have a meeting with her at 2. I'm happy to extend an invitation if the group would like to have Jackie as a speaker. She's a great speaker and an incredible wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, Doug, considering the time of year, I think it might be interesting to hear from our legislative representatives what they anticipate being the hot buttons for this coming session.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Normally, October, November is where we start to get some heads up about what their agendas look like. And, you know, Lorraine is probably going to switch to D1. I'm happy to invite her to speak if you want, because I'm sure she has some thoughts about transferring over from D4 to D1.
And I think also, you know, considering what happened in the House last year, be interesting to see what transpires this coming session too.
Yeah. Anybody else? I could ask Mark as well. They're both kind of senior members of the Hawaiian delegation. Mark is of course plugged into the whole Mauna Kea working group situation, though I don't think he can say very much yet. I think he's going to be pretty circumspect about that. But he's number 2 to the speaker, right? So really has a lot of insight into what the House is thinking. Okay, would you like me to invite both of them? I can set that up.
That'd be interesting.
Good idea.
The other thing I thought about is the PAR group, that public access room, I think it's called, you know, to understand how to get input into the legislative process. They came over about 4 or 5 years ago, and it might be interesting to have them let us know, you know, if anything has changed on how we can create bills or get input into the legislature. I think it's called PAR, P-A-R.
Okay. Does anybody have contact information for them?
Probably the best thing to do is to contact them, PAR. I don't know who the person is, but it's a group that provides service such that you and I and everybody will know how to get a bill into the process.
Okay. I'll try and track that one down. Okay, if not, another good meeting. Thanks again, John. Great work that you're achieving there at the mighty Hele-on. So I've had to resort to an F-150 instead of the bus since my commute is now 3 minutes instead of 3 hours. So no more Hele-on for me.